Hi everyone, I'm Liz and welcome back to Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch. It's a WIP Parade. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel for the 2022 WIP Parade and yearly wrap up here on my channel. Thank you guys for joining me. I am filming this on New Year's Eve, so I'm feeling very festive. I busted out a fancy shirt. This is the headband I wore in my wedding. And I have these little champagne or rosé earrings I felt like appropriate for New Year's Eve. I did not do all of this for you guys. I am also celebrating 4 years with my husband. We have not been married 4 years. We haven't even been married a year, but our first date was on New Year's Eve of 2018. So today is 4 years since we went on our first date. So we cooked dinner and watched TV and are hanging out on the couch. And then I was like, I'm gonna go film my WIP Parade and I'm gonna look festive while I do it. So anyways, I hope you enjoy a festive Liz. I think last year and the year before I did it in my PJs because why not? That week between Christmas and New Year's is like 24/7 PJs, never brushing your hair, only eating cookies, binge watching television. So, anyways, usually I'm in my pajamas, but today I decided to dress up since I was actually filming on New Year's Eve and it's also me and Rob's anniversary. So I wanted to look cute. Okay, let's talk about 2022 and my year in stitching and on YouTube. I kind of like to share a few little fun stats with you guys just to wrap up my year on FlossTube and before I show you all my projects. So let me consult my sheet. I have some notes I've taken. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say is that in this past year, 2022, I have had 622,000 views on my videos. 622,000. That number is crazy. Last year it was in the 400,000. So that jumped 50% in a year. You guys are crazy. I can't believe that many people are watching my videos. But thank you. And then the other thing I wanted to say is last year I did my top 3 most watched videos and guys, it barely changed. So my top 3 videos viewed in 2022 were my how to make a project bag, and that is my original all fabric with a zipper project bag. So that's my most viewed video in 2022. And then my second most viewed video is my how to frame needlework video. And that was one of my first ever videos. And I know it would look better if I filmed it now, but people still use that video. So I leave it alone because people are still watching it. That was my number 2 most viewed video. And then the third place video was my vinyl project bag. And so that's just the vinyl front quilted back project bags. So yeah, those are my top 3 most watched videos in 2022. So that just tells me that you guys love tutorials. Or I guess maybe tutorials appeal to a broader audience, not just the people who sit down to watch my floss tubes. So I wouldn't necessarily say that maybe you sitting here watching this prefer my tutorials, but I think in general more people watch my tutorials. So anyways, I did just publish a new one on how to make my project folder style. And a lot of people have been watching it. I have a feeling that's going to be in the top of my 2023 list because it's already beaten all my videos from December. So thank you guys for the love on that video. Okay, I also wanted to mention that in 2022, I had 27 finishes. And sounds like a lot, but I keep track of year to year. And the past 2 years, I've had 34 finishes. So I was actually a little bit less productive in 2022. And I was planning a wedding and then getting married in the first half of the year. So I think that probably contributed a little bit to my lack of finishes. I don't even want to say lack. 27 is an excellent amount of finishes. So very proud of that number, but not quite as high as previous years. Okay, so let's talk about WIPs. Entering into 2023, I have 39 active works in progress, cross stitches that have been started, have stitches in them, and are, assigned a project bag and live on a shelf in my craft room. And I am actively working on them. I have done a couple abandons throughout the year. There's a couple WIPs that aren't in here that have been in previous years, but my total is now at 39. And I decided that for 2023, I wanted to make it a goal to reduce my number of WIPs. I'm not going to say like by half or by 10 or 20 or, you know, kind of assign it a number. I just want to lower the number. I think in my head, if I'm under 30 by the end of the year, I think I feel pretty good about that progress. I feel like, you know, that would mean I finished a lot of things and didn't start quite as many. So in the spirit of that, I have decided that I'm going to do WIPGO this year. And WIPGO is like a bingo board kind of setup. I'll put my WIPGO card up here while I talk if you just kind of want to look at it. And basically it is created by Jessie Marie Does Stuff. And she calls numbers, 2 numbers a month for 12 months. And so as the numbers are called, you go to your WIPGO board and start working on that goal. And so it's kind of just a challenge, a game to get you focused on your WIPs. And I decided I wanted to try it this year because I've never done it. And I've always followed along, you know, on Instagram and on YouTube with other people who have done it. And it looks like fun, but sometimes I'm not the best at following instructions. So that's kind of why I've hesitated in the past to join WIPGO, but I really want to give it a go. And so I made a board, and as I walk through this WIP pile in front of me, I'm going to point out, you know, what is on my WIPGO board and what the goal is. Okay, so I have 39 WIPs to show you guys in this WIP parade, and I did a little breakdown of when all of these WIPs were started. And so my oldest WIP was from 2019. So I have 1 WIP left over from 2019. I have 10 WIPs that were started in 2020. And then I have 17 WIPs that were started in 2021. And I looked last year, I had 18 from 2021 last year. So that means I only completed 1 project that I started in 2021 this year. That's kind of crazy. Anyways, and then I have 11 WIPs that are from 2022. So this previous year, I've started 11 things this year that I haven't finished. And I feel pretty good about that number because last year it was 18. So, yeah, definitely want to kind of work through a lot of these WIPs. And so as I go through these, I'll tell you kind of what's on my WIPGO board and, you know, what my plans are on that project for the year. So I am going to start actually at the most recent starts and go to the oldest last. I don't know, that's just how I decided to work this. So you're going to see all of the 2022 starts first before we get all the way back to that 2019 WIP. And I do have all of my notes here on a laptop in front of me. So if you see me keep looking down, that's just what I'm looking at. I want to be able to tell you guys what the chart name is, what the fabric is, floss, all the details. So I'm going to be referring to my notes a lot. Okay, so the first WIP is Christmas Samplers from Prairie Schooler. Here is what my WIP looks like. I am stitching mine on 36 count color and cotton winter wheat, and I'm using all the called for DMC floss. Next up is Merry Pear by Satsuma Street. And here is my progress. I was definitely trying to get this one done over Christmas break, but it just really didn't happen. So that's okay. It'll get finished for next year. And I'm using the kit perforated paper and floss, so everything as called for. The next one is Merry Christmas by Art to Heart. And I am stitching mine on a, let's see, 36 count agave linen by Zweigart. And I am using the called for flosses. Another super cute Christmas one that I started this year that did not get done, but will get done. Next up is Winter Garden from Hello from Liz Matthews. Here is what mine looks like. I am stitching this on 36 count Seraphim fabrics in the color Antique Lace, and I'm using all the called for silks. And I got really close on this one, and I almost put this on my WIPGO board just as like a finish, but like it would be such a quick finish. I didn't. I think I just really do want to get this done in January, so I need to keep this out and kind of like in my face to finish. But yeah, super, super pretty. Next up is Reindeer Games by Erica Michaels. And here is what mine looks like. I'm using 36 count Lakeside linen in the color Vintage Exemplar, and I'm using all of the called for flosses. I absolutely love crossword puzzles and word games, and so I had to stitch this one. And did I put this one on my WIPGO board? No, I almost did. I'm forgetting what's on I have like notes over here to like make sure I remember to tell you what's on WIPGO, but this one isn't. I did consider it, but I decided to not put, I put a couple seasonal pieces on my WIPGO board, but not very many. I kind of focused my WIPGO board on like older WIPs and kind of non-seasonal stuff because I feel like I always come back to my Christmas stuff. I don't really have to worry about, you know, that kind of stuff languishing that much. So anyways, I'm sure I will work on this when it gets closer to Christmas next year again. Next up is Celebrate Love by Madame Chantilly. And this is the one I did a color conversion on to kind of match my wedding colors. Like I went with very like bright, colorful flowers for my wedding. And so I wanted to stitch this piece kind of like a wedding sampler a little, or just to kind of commemorate my wedding basically. And so I changed the colors. And so here is what my progress looks like on this one. And so I'm using, let's see, 36 count R&R Barb's Blend fabric, and I'm doing my own overdye floss conversion. So I just picked overdyed flosses that I felt like looked like my flower colors for my wedding and just started stitching. Next up is a Mill Hill kit that I started on my COVID wrecked honeymoon. Got some stitching done on that honeymoon. And then here is my progress. I definitely need to get this stitched up for next year and turn this into an ornament for our tree. I kind of forgot I had this in progress, to be honest, until I sat down to do this WIP Parade. Otherwise, I would have finished this for this Christmas. I know an octopus isn't like Christmassy, but my husband loves octopuses, and so I just wanted to make it into an ornament for our tree. And so I'm using all the kit floss and perforated paper as called for. Next up is Janet Haig Pratt by Heartstring Samplery. And this is what mine looks like. Just a little start. I absolutely loved this when it came out. I bought the kit from her Etsy shop. I'm not sure how it's available now. It was exclusive to her Etsy store, I think, for a little while when I bought it, but you might be able to get this chart now. And it's just 4 DMC colors. It's super cute. And I'm stitching mine on 36 count Weeks Dye Works gray, which was called for. It came, I think, about like all as a kit. And then the called for flosses, which are just 4 colors of DMC. So this one actually is, I think this is the first one that's on my WIPGO board. I'm gonna have to remember to say that. I'm losing track of where I'm at. Let me see. Yes. Okay. This is like one of my ambitious WIPGO, I don't know, WIPGO squares. Is that how you say it? Basically, I have on my WIPGO board to finish this. So when it's called in that month, I'm going to finish this. And I don't know, I don't have very much done, but I think it's less than 100 by 100. And it's like all text. And so I think if I get going on this, I really can finish it in like under 10 days. So that's why I put it on my WIPGO board as a finish. And I just love this little sampler, and I really do want to get this one finished. So that's the first thing from the WIP pile that's on the WIPGO board. Next up is Strawberry Harvest from Cottage Garden Samplings. And here is what mine looks like. I'm stitching mine on 36 count Seraphim fabrics in the color Nougat, and I'm using all of the called for flosses. I started this one with my friend Kathleen from Situation Normal. She did I think it was called Strawberry Pickin' Sal, and she's done it the past couple of years, and so I started this for 2022's Sal. Next is the Big Hearted Tiny Town from Heart and Hand, and here is where I'm at with mine. I'm stitching mine on 36 count Zweigart Vintage Country Mocha, and I'm using all the called for flosses. And I've completed the Christmas Tiny Town. I think that's the only one I've completed. And then I started Valentine's last year. I have them all. I love them all. I want to do them all. And so I'm stitching them all on 36 count Vintage Country Mocha. That way they all come out to the same size. And I want to do some sort of like interchangeable finish, kind of like how I did with my, my word plays from Brenda Gervais. So yes, I don't have this one on the WIPGO board, but I know I want to stitch on this like before Valentine's Day or around Valentine's Day. So I have a feeling this one will get done semi-soon. That's the plan anyways. So that is Tiny Town. Next up is one from my WIPGO board, and it was actually one of the first pulls. So this is one I'm going to be working on in January. And it is Quaker Snowflakes by Hello from Liz Matthews. And here's what mine looks like. So I am stitching mine on a 40 count Picture This Plus Fathom, and I'm using my own NPI floss conversion. It's not, I wasn't trying to do a conversion. I was trying to work with the NPI floss that I had in my stash. And so the white is just like one shade different than she called for. NPI's got a lot of different whites. The only issue I had is I tried to use some greens that I had in my stash and ended up not liking it. So this green will get pulled out. And then I did end up ordering the called for green. So yeah, I need to pull that little green tree out and restitch it. So I do have this on my WIPGO board for this month, and I'm pretty sure I said I want to finish it. Yeah. So the first square that got pulled is one I want to finish. This is another kind of stretch goal. It's not a huge piece, but I'm really gonna have to put some work on it in January to get it done. But like, how appropriate that it got pulled in January. You know, that's kind of the thing on WIPGO. You don't know when the projects are gonna get called. So if you put seasonal stuff, you might be working on them at weird times, but I decided I don't care. I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. So I kind of feel like I have a big challenge with this being my first WIPGO pull and it being a finish, because I also have another WIPGO pull for this month that's also a finish. I think I got, yeah, I think both of my square, okay, anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there. But that is Quaker Snowflakes. Okay, the next WIP I have to show you is the Peace on Earth sampler from Cottage Garden Samplings. I always forget the name of that. I don't know why. Cottage Garden Samplings. And it's also a WIPGO project. So here is what my progress looks like on that one. And I'm stitching mine on 36 count Picture This Plus Wren, and I'm using all of the called for overdyed flosses. And so I have this on my board twice, and the goal both times is to stitch for 10 days. I really went with some kind of crazy ambitious goals, I think. I think I can do it. I really did decide to try to challenge myself, and we'll see how that plays out. So this is on my board twice, and both times the goal is to stitch on it for 10 days. And I'm not going to be like super strict about my days. You know, most of the time, like if it's a work day, I stitch, you know, for a few hours in the evening. If it's a weekend day, it could be several hours. But basically if I pick it up for more than an hour at a time, like, you know, like on a day, then that's going to be considered its day, you know, as long as it gets like an hour or two, like a normal kind of stitching session. So that's how I'm going to kind of track, I guess, my progress. So that is the Peace on Earth sampler. Oh, and that was my Christmas Day start of 2021. So before that were all my 2022 WIPs that are moving into 2023. And now I'm kind of going back into the 2021 WIPs. So Peace on Earth. The next one that I have to show you, I actually didn't bring back with me. I think I have a picture of it. It hasn't changed since last year when I showed it to you. It's my Vegas needlepoint ornament. So I'll put a picture up right here. Needlepoint is not my fave. So I struggle working on this. I also don't know how to finish needlepoint. So I don't know, I'll have to figure out somewhere to send it or watch a bunch of tutorials and figure out how to finish needlepoint. But when I saw this Vegas canvas, I just knew I had to have it because we had already decided at that point last year that we were going to get married in Vegas and we were planning our wedding and had a date and all that stuff. And so I bought that little needlepoint kit. Well, I had it kitted up by the Tinsmith's Wife, so I bought it and worked on it, but I think I'm only like a third of the way through. I need to finish it for next year because it's really, really cute, but anyways, that's still on the WIP list. Okay, so the next one is Christmas Morning by Sue Hillis. And here is what mine looks like. I'll hold it back so you can see both pieces. I have the top of the box done. And I have half of the little reindeer band on the bottom. And I am stitching this on, let's see, the called for 32 count vintage country mocha with all of the called for DMC flosses. And I love this. So cute. Next up is Joya Noel by Kathy Barrick. And here is what mine looks like. I'm stitching mine on 36 count Lakeside linen in the color Vintage Chantilly Cream, and I'm using all the called for NPI silk flosses. This one is on my WIPGO board for 2023, and the goal I have is 5 days. So I did go easy on myself on some of them. Some of the goals I have 5 days, so that is Joya Noel. Next up is American Harmony number 3 from Summer House Stitchworks. And here is what mine is looking like. I am stitching mine on 36 count Picture This Plus Legacy with all of the called for floss. And this part is all done, and this band is halfway done. So it's so close to a finish. So I put this on my WIPGO board this year for a finish. This has been my travel project in 2022, and I just want to get it done. Super cute. So I put this on my WIPGO board. Next is Let Joy In from Friend Stitch. And this one was a design that was exclusive to the Friend Stitch retreat hosted by Heart and Hand and Bent Creek. Follow both those lovely designers on Instagram if you want more information about future Friend Stitch retreats. But this chart was included in the, I think, 2021 Friend Stitch. And I'm stitching mine on 40 count R&R Stars Hollow blend. And I'm using all the called for flosses that were included in our boxes. So next up is Sarah Barker 1840 by Needlework Press. And here is what mine looks like. It's definitely the coolest sampler I have in progress, I think. It's just so graphic and cool. And I'm stitching mine on 40 count R&R Reproduction Brenda's Brew. And I'm using all of the called for silk flosses. I think they're dinky dyes mostly, and they're super pretty. So I really do want to stitch on this and get back to this, but it didn't make the cut for my WIPGO board. So we'll see when I get back to it, but super pretty. Next is What Remains Is Love by Blackbird Designs. And here is what mine looks like. I'm stitching mine on 36 count Weeks Dye Work straw, and I'm using all the called for floss. And you can see I just stopped right in the middle of a stitch on that house there. Cool. Also did not make the cut for the WIPGO board, but I really thought about this one. So pretty. And I love everything Blackbird Designs, so I'm coming back for it. The next one is Summer Jubilee by Blackbird Designs, and this one is on my WIPGO board. Here is what my progress looks like so far. I started this on my birthday in 2021, so this was a June 11, 2021 start, and I remember being so pumped when this chart came out because I had seen it and it had been out of print, and I was just so ready to start this, and so I started on my birthday. And I worked on it a little bit, but I never came back to it. So I put this on my WIPGO board, and when this gets called, it's going to get 10 days. And I really think I could get close to a finish in 10 days on this design. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one being on the WIPGO board. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys what I'm stitching on. So my fabric is 40 count R&R 18th century Blackbird. So 18th century Blackbird, and I'm using all the called for over dyed floss. Next is Happy Birthday America by Brenda Gervais. And here is what my progress looks like. It's about halfway done and it's small, so I should just finish this. So hopefully I will this year. I'm stitching this on 36 count Winter's Brew, and I'm using all the called for floss. I bought this as a kit, so everything as called for. And I have all the finishing supplies too. It came with like a little thing to make like a cake stand type of finish for it. So I have it. I need to just finish it. Next is the Equality Sampler by Plum Street Samplers, and this is another one that I was so excited to come out because it had been a retreat exclusive for about a year, and so when it came out I was like on it, bought it, started it, and then I didn't come back to it, and I haven't stitched it this year. Yes, I did put this on my WIPGO board. Sorry, let me just double check my notes again. Yes, so I put the Equality Sampler on my WIPGO board with the goal to stitch on this for 10 days. So here is what my progress looks like. I am stitching mine on 36 count R&R Mayflower Mocha, and I'm using all the called for over dyed flosses. Next up is Stitchy Stars by Lori Holt. Here's what mine looks like. Let's see, this was stitched on 28 count Zweigart in the color Wheat, and I'm using all the called for over dyed flosses. I bought them in a floss pack from Fat Quarter Shop. So I think I just have 2 more little squares to stitch. think it was only 6 across. If you haven't noticed, I did not bother to get all the charts out of the bags because I didn't want to mess up what project goes where later. So hopefully I'm putting pictures up on the screen for you or something, but yeah, I don't have the chart in front of me to reference. I'm pretty sure this one is like close to done. So anyways. The next one is Where Flowers Bloom by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. And this is my only Hands Across the Sea sampler that I've ever started. And again, another one I was so excited to get my hands on and then didn't finish. So here's my progress. I have this on my WIPGO board to stitch for 10 days when it comes up. And I'm hoping that's enough for a finish. I did put it on my board as a finish, and then I like backed up and I was like, you have too many things on there to finish. Just give it 10 days. And I feel like 10 days might get it to the finish line because it's kind of a small sampler, but we will see when it gets called. So I'm stitching mine on 36 count Lakeside linen vintage pecan butter, and I'm using the called for floss, which are all silks. Next is Strawberry Fields Forever by Blackbird Designs, and this is another one that I started for my friend Kathleen's Strawberry Pick and Sal, but this one was from 2021. So let's see, it was started on March 20th, 2021. That's not the first day of spring, is it? Is spring? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so that was the first day of spring. For some reason I was like, spring's not till April. I think it starts at the end of March. Anyways, so here is what mine looks like. And I am stitching mine on 32 count Weeks Dye Works gray, and I'm using my own kind of color conversion. And the reason I don't work on this one more is because it's on 32 count overdyed fabric with 2 strands of floss, and that's my least favorite way to stitch because I just feel like my stitches look bulky and messy. But I'm not ready to abandon this one yet, so it's staying in the WIP pile and we'll see what happens. Yeah. Okay, this next one is also on my WIPGO board, and it was also called this month, and it's also one that I assigned a finish to. So I really am giving myself a challenge with my WIPGO. January has 2 pulls and they're both finishes. This one is pretty small though, and I'm like almost halfway done. So Bit of Summer from the Sewing Club book by Blackbird Designs. And here is what my progress looks like. I am using, let's see, 36 count Weeks Dye Works Sanguine for the fabric. And I'm using all the called for overdyed flosses. So hopefully I'll have these two, this and my Quaker Snowflakes finished in the month of January, because that's the goal. The next one is Florentina by Mirabilia, and this is my only Mirabilia I have in progress. I really want to finish her. It's just like the most different thing, like the most different WIP I have, and so I don't always work on it, but I always love to work on it. So I did put this on my WIPGO board twice this month, this year, and so when it gets called, each time the goal will be 10 days, and so I'm hoping to get a lot of progress on my Mirabilia this year. So here is where she's at. It is on 32 count Picture This Plus Chalice, and I'm using all the called for DMC flosses, and I have the bead pack and everything. So I think I'm about a third to maybe close to half. Like the bottom half of her is a lot bigger. I'm not half. Don't let me lie to you. I'm like a quarter to a third done, but the bottom half is bigger. So I've been like definitely focusing on the bottom half of her because I feel like when I get to the top, it'll just breeze by. That's what I'm telling myself anyways. So that is my Mirabilia. Okay, so now we're crossing back over into 2020. So these next few WIPs are all going to be from 2020. And the first one is Home for Christmas by Brenda Gervais. And again, it's a small one. I don't know why I didn't finish it, and I haven't stitched it in a couple years. I started it in 2020 around Christmas, and I need to just finish it. I really need to like take a minute as it gets like into Christmas stitching and go through all my Christmas WIPs and like make sure I still want to stitch all these next year. Because I still love this. It's super cute, but this is the only progress I have on it so far. So I'm stitching mine on 40 count Lakeside Linen Vintage Light Exemplar, and I'm using all the called for flosses. So I think it called for it to be stitched on 28 count over 1, and I didn't want to do that, so I just decided to stitch mine 40 count over 2. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention at the start that I kind of meant to, if you're new to my channel and you don't normally watch my videos and you're curious how many strands of thread I stitch on 36 and 40, it's 1 strand. And 28 and 32, usually 2 strands, but I'm leaning towards 1 strand on 32 count as well. So I haven't really been mentioning on the previous projects, but if I'm stitching anything on 36 or 40, it's always 1 strand. So anyways. The next one is Winter Wonderland by Blackbird Designs. And as far as I know, this is an out of print chart. Hopefully it'll be reprinted at some point because Blackbird Designs is known to reprint older charts. But as far as I know, this one is out of print. So sorry about that. Here is what my progress looks like. And I'm stitching mine on 36 count Lakeside linen in the color Meadow Rue. And I'm using all the called for flosses. I bought mine as like a chart and floss pack, you know, sometime in 2020, I think. Next is Ann Topley from the Scarlet House. Here is my progress on Ann Topley. I am stitching mine on 36 count Weeks Dye Works in the color Twilight, and I'm using all the called for floss. It's another one I really wanted to put on the WIPGO board, but ran out of space, but I'm hoping I get to stitch on this one a little bit throughout the year because it's so pretty, and it's definitely a really unique sampler being, you know, stitched on black with the bright colors. So love this. The next one is Santa's Trips by Barbara Anna, and this is another one that I have on my WIPGO board, and I have it on there twice. So here is my progress on Santa's Trips. I love this. I bought this when it was a SAL, a stitch along from Creative Poppy, and now you can get the whole design. Let's see. So I put this on my WIPGO board to finish a square when it gets called. So each time it gets called, I want to finish 1 square and basically start and finish a square. So hopefully I'll have, you know, the top 2 rows done. It's like a 9 square design. So I want to be, you know, a little closer to done by the end of the year. And depending on how fast these squares stitch up in the month, I might, I don't know, maybe I'll do a little bit more. Maybe I'll get crazy and do extra credit. Let's see, I'm stitching mine on 40 count Lakeside linen, vintage maple sugar, and I'm using an NPI conversion that I made. Kind of, this called for DMC, and I really wanted to stitch with NPI. It was one of my first kind of NPI projects, and I just did a conversion from DMC to NPI to get my colors. So super excited to work on this one when it gets called. Next is Merry Christmas by Blackbird Designs. And here is what my progress looks like. I'm stitching mine on 40 count Lakeside linen vintage wild rose, and I over dyed mine just a little bit with some kind of tan just to kind of like tone down the pink a tiny bit. And this is one that has looked like this since I started it in 2020. And it's one that like I keep coming back to. Is like, should I abandon this? Am I ever going to finish this? But I do want to finish it, so it stays on the list. Next is Land That I Love by Teresa Kogut. And I do have this one on my WIPGO board twice. And each time it's called, the goal is to stitch 10 days. So let's make sure I'm getting this all on camera. Here's what my progress looks like right now. I really made a bunch of progress on this year. I stitched on this a lot over the summer, and I don't think that 20 days this year, I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that 20 days might be enough to take it over the finish line. It kind of depends on when it gets called and how busy I am that month, honestly, like how much love it actually gets in those 10 days. But I kind of hope I'm close to a finish by the end of the year. So I had to put this on the WIPGO board twice because I really want this one done. It's one of my older WIPs. I'm down, we're down in the middle of 2020 right now. So there's only like 6 WIPs left to show you. So this is one of the older ones. I started this in July 2020. And I'm stitching mine on 36 count hand-dyed fabric. So I dyed this base fabric myself. It started as a limestone colored Zweigart, and I used a little bit of dark brown, tan, and pearl gray, like wash over it to kind of give the look that I wanted. And I am using all the called for flosses, except I think I subbed one of the blues that I couldn't find at the time, but pretty much all as called for. And I absolutely love, 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 love stitching on this one. So I'm very much looking forward to it getting called on WIPGO. Next is After the Roses by Ink Circles. And here is my progress on that one. I'm stitching mine on 40 count Lakeside linen Maritime white, and I'm using all of the called for flosses. So, so pretty. Looks like a tapestry. Next is Sunnyside Samplers by The Drawn Thread. So here's my progress. I am stitching mine on 36 count natural Zweigart and all of the called for silk flosses, kind of a mix of NPIs and dinky dyes. And I put this on my WIPGO board because I love it and it's one of my older WIPs and I want to finish it. And I made my goal just kind of one section, like one little house. And I'm kind of following the instructions of the group that's doing a stitch along this year. I think it's just called the Sunnyside Sampler Sal, and it's hosted by the Highway Stitcher Colette, and Brenda Miles is participating, Pam from Just Keep Stitching, a bunch of people. And so I kind of wanted to jump in, but I only had one spot on my WIPGO board. So I put one house section, but hopefully I'll get to it a little bit more throughout the year. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm excited for that one. Next up is Consider the Lilies by Heartstring Samplery. I also have this one on my WIPGO board to stitch on for 10 days when it gets called. So see if I can show you all of this progress. I'll have to hold it way back here. This thing is massive. This is definitely the biggest WIP in my pile. It is 300 something by 200 something or 400 something. I don't know. It's huge. And let me flip back to my notes here so I can tell you what I'm stitching it on. I'm stitching mine on 40 count R&R Winter's Brew, and I'm using all of the called for over-dyed cottons. Hold it up a little bit closer so you can see some of the colors. I really love this one, but it is huge and it's kind of a lot to work on. So I don't get it out all the time, but I'm really excited for it to be called this year on WIPGO. Next up is Old West Dry Goods by Tumbleweeds. And here is my progress. I am stitching mine on 32 count Lakeside linen in the color Pearled Barley, and I'm using the called for flosses. Next up is Stitcher's Resolution by Heartstring Samplery. And here is my progress. I'm stitching mine on 36 count Zweigart in the color Cream, and I'm using all the called for floss. I had the idea to do kind of some stitching related samplers in my craft room, and I just have not come back to this one, but I still want to stitch it so it stays in the WIP pile, even though I don't think I've given it any love in quite a while. Okay, so now we're down to the very last WIP, and this is the only one that is still left over from 2019, and I have it on my WIPGO board twice this year, so I don't think it's going to get finished this year, but I do have it on my WIPGO board twice, and it is Early American Series by Little House Needleworks, and I'm doing this all as one piece, so I guess maybe you could say I have 3 finishes in here, but it's 9 squares total. I'm just counting this all as one big piece. So here is my progress. Hold this, yeah, make sure it's all in camera. So I'm stitching mine on a 36 count Zweigart. I don't know what the color is. I bought this in person at a fabric shop or a needlework shop, and I didn't get a tag, so I don't know what the color is. I'm using all the called for over-dyed cottons. And yeah, I'm stitching everything as one piece. And so I have this on my WIPGO board to finish 2 squares. So each time it gets called, I need to finish a square. And so I think what I'm going to do is just start and finish a square. So even though I'm kind of almost done with that center one, I'm not going to count finishing that as one of my WIPGO calls. I'll actually start and finish a new square, and that'll get me a little bit closer to done by the end of the year. So yay! That's all my WIPs. Okay, fun. It's really fun to see to like pull out all the WIPs, iron them, get them all ready, show them off to you, talk about them again. And it just makes me excited for the new year and for seeing all these projects as they get called on my WIPGO board. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And yeah, hopefully this WIP parade didn't stress you out, and you don't need to let me know that that's too many WIPs for you. I understand that the amount of WIPs I have is not for everyone. Some people have more, some people have less. It's all good. That's the amount I have, and that's the amount I'm fine with. So yeah, keep that in mind if you want to comment on how many WIPs I have. I'm sensitive. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for watching the WIP Parade and for watching any of my videos over the past year. I think my channel views were up 50% year over year, which is amazing. So thank you to each and every one of you who continue to come watch all of my cross stitch and quilting content and enjoy it, and chit chat with me over Instagram and email about cross stitch, and whenever I meet you in person, which I'm really hoping to do a lot more of this year. I've got a bunch of retreats planned, so can't wait to see you guys in 2023. I hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve and a good New Year's Day, and wishing you nothing but the best in 2023. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.